On today's episode, we're going to dive into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. So stay tuned as we dive into that realm. All right, Rex, today I had a fan request possibly talking about some D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. We're both very familiar with the role-playing game.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So I think one of the things we should cover is what do you think is your favorite set of rules as far as the game, knowing that it's in like I think it's like in its fourth or fifth edition. I'm not 100% sure.
I
want to say it's fifth edition.
Yeah, I think the third set is the one that I'm most familiar with and played the most of. I played a little bit of the first rule set and it was kind of meh, but the third rule set I think is the one I'm used to and like pretty well.
I think my favorite is the second rule set. I think the second rule set got a little more complicated, but still very simplified. I think that's my favorite one to play with. But let's talk about the different rule sets, because the newer ones take in account, because I remember when D&D first came out, you know, I remember the first rule set and the second rule set, very basic, fighter, you know, mage. And now you can be a fighter mage, or, you know, there's all these complicated like combinations that you can be. What do you think that does to the game? Do you think that dilutes the game, or do you think that just brings more of an imagination to the game?
I think it brings a bit more imagination, but not necessarily in a good way per se. I mean, I'm all for, like, you know, adding a ton of classes and adding, you know, different races and all that jazz. But the problem I think comes with that, when you start being able to hybrid your classes out, it takes away from that group aspect. So, you know, if you've got somebody that's real tanky and they're set up to be a fighter, and then you've got somebody that does DPS as a, you know, strategic mage, you might have both of those things kind of hindered when you've got somebody that's split between that. And that might take you down, you know, a person in your party that could have been more beneficial being full on fighter or full on mage.
See, that's my thought process exactly, because I love the different classes. Like, you know, when D&D first come out, there was elves.
Yeah.
Now there's like many different species of elves, you know, and they each have their benefits, they each have their flaws, and it's like, you know, where do you go, like, when, like, how do you choose a character in today's D&D versus back then? Because it's like, to me it just feels so complicated that, like, they took a wonderful game and just complicated it. Now maybe maybe that's just me being a little old school, old fashioned, you know, but like, used to, an elf was an elf. You know, now you have dark elves, you have sun elves, you have forest elves. I mean, if the list goes
Keebler elves.
Yeah, might as well be Keebler elves. Be making some fudge cookies.
Yeah, you never know. I don't know. My thing, when I'm always choosing race, character, whatever, and everything, because you know me, I'm always like mage. That's like my big focus in all those types of games. So it's just whoever is more attuned to magic or has a larger mana pool starting out. Like, I don't care what they look like, or what kind of elf, good, bad, doesn't matter. I go for ultimate power when it comes to that.
Yeah, I think there's aspects of the new rules that I like, and there's aspects that I don't like.
I got you.
And I think I think you're right. You know, D&D has always been about that. You know, hey, we've got a group of people, you know, how, and everybody can play as they want, you know, uh are you going to work as a group as a common goal, or is there somebody in the group that's going to screw everybody else because they're greedy, you know? I've played some you know, campaigns like that where somebody was very greedy and they didn't care if the rest of the party died as long as they ended up with the riches at the end.
Was that person you?
No, that person would actually be my papa.
Oh, gotcha.
He always played a greedy wizard.
Mine wasn't so much that. Last like campaign I played, I was really big into Dragonlance when it was out, and really big into the twins from it. I still don't know how to pronounce it properly, but Rasslin or Raceland. So I modeled my character very closely to that one. And the last time I was getting ready to play, we were going to set up like a solo campaign so I could have a bit of that greediness, but then bring like whatever I learned from that back to the party, was what the game plan was.
Well, and that's the thing with Raceland, you know, let's just talk about him for a minute. Raceland, you know, if you've read the
Oh yeah.
books, started out as a very weak character, but ultimately became a very dark wizard.
Yeah.
So, and that's the one thing about D&D, you can play that role, you can play that good wizard, and then turn, you know, in during the campaign, depending on how things are going.
Right.
So I've played with people that have changed their position midway. They're all about helping the group. Next thing you know, they're all about the power, so to speak. I've played quite a few campaigns
What do you
with
typically
family and
roll as?
friends. What do I like to roll as a ranger,
Okay, that's what I thought. Because like
elf.
the last, was it the D&D
I
game we played that you were a ranger in, or was it
Yeah, I
Diablo? No,
would
Diablo, you were warlock, or
warlock.
okay, and
Yeah,
I was
I
shaman, I
would
think.
model my character after another character from Dragonlance, Tanis the half elf.
Yep.
Except in my character is usually full elf. Um, but I would model my character after him. Again, that was for my love of the Dragonlance novels. I enjoyed them very much, you know. But it's nice to dig into those role playing games, and just, you know, it's a good pastime if you can find a couple hours, you know, to invite family, friends over, do small campaigns, say, hey, this is the agenda for today. And I think having a good dungeon master
Yeah.
is the key. You have to have a good dungeon master.
And with that, you got to find somebody who can convey a good story, who's pretty detail oriented, and then also knows like when to bend the rules to make the story good, and then when to stick
Yes.
with them to keep you on task.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're going to be picking flowers for 30 minutes or something like that, they can kind of like nudge you along. Or, you know, if you come with an out of the box solution to a situation, like if they allow it, like that's something that, you know, the whole party's like jazzed about. So
Yeah, and it's all, I think that's key to any good campaign when playing the game is having a good dungeon master that like you said, they, okay, you came with this out of box solution, but I'm only going to give you a 25 percentile to be able to complete it to perfection.
yeah.
If you fail that savings throw, then there's going to be consequences, and here's what it's going to be, you know. I think, you know, it's been so long since I've played. I've got so much. I have so many books. I've got hand drawn maps. Still,
I had some of the layout printed maps when I played last. Like I did a campaign as a dungeon master at one point, and had like the minifigs and like all that stuff because I was into D&D Warband when that was out. That was pretty fun. But that's like the last main one. I've never done it off the hand-drawn maps. Well, other than in driver's ed in high school, like we did play a campaign like in class, but other than that,
I've done my aunt and uncle were big on hand-drawn maps. I actually have one that my uncle had done on a canvas, like canvas
that's cool.
material. So I still have it, but I mean that's all that, you know, having all that is good for, you know, in case I ever decide to get back into it, which, you know, I've always had thoughts about getting back into it. Biggest thing is finding the time. But
Yeah.
what was your what is the, like, I don't know, the most memorable monster for many of your campaigns?
I mean, it's been, goodness, so long, but I'd say it was probably like a group of like werewolves or something we were jumped by. Like I know it's not like a big bad, but like just the moment of it being ambushed and like having to deal with like multiple targets, protect the party, think on your feet. Like it was very like drop of the hat kind of thing.
I think for me, it's the bugbear.
The bugbear, really?
I always think about the bugbear. Yeah. I mean, it's and it's evolved. If you look at the bugbear from first edition to edition, the last edition that's come out, like he's evolved like crazy, and they're ugly characters. I mean, they are ugly looking characters, and they're dumb.
I see what you're talking about. Yeah, it's changed a whole lot.
Yeah, they're dumb. Then, but I think that's one of those that stands out for me because I've had a lot of dungeon masters that like to throw those in, just because it's one of the iconic monsters.
I could agree with that. Yeah,
because it was in the first edition all the way to now. But I think, you know, I would like for our fans to kind of tell us a little bit of, maybe give us some backstories in the comments about some of the campaigns that they've done, and let us know what else they would like to see D&D wise. As like I said, this is a fan requested video, and it's something that me and you both have had fun with and cherished. You know, maybe one day eventually me and you'll run a campaign together.
Yeah, that's the one thing we've never gotten to do. Like we've talked about it previous, but man, like schedules just hadn't aligned. And
I think the biggest thing is getting someone who knows what they're doing to Dungeon Master, because I don't think you're going to want a Dungeon Master, and I sure now.
Like, yeah, because we want to play and like try it.
We're going to want to play. So I think that's the biggest thing, is finding us a Dungeon Master, and then, you know, like I said, it's a good group thing. Yeah. Something I even was able to get Patricia into. So she actually does like to play. She does a rogue, right? Typically. No, she does a mage, and she normally doesn't care who's in the line of fire when it comes to fireballs. Sounds about right. Yeah. She there was a campaign where she toasted me and the rest of the party. We all took damage. Just because that's was the spell she had, that's the spell she was going to use, and she didn't care who was in the line of fire. So that's, again, you know, that's the great thing about role playing, is you can play it any way you want to, and if you're not thinking about the consequences, the Dungeon Master can say, okay, well, that's fine, you throw your fireball, but guess what? Everybody in the party's taking damage because they're all in the radius of the blast. So, so with that said, do us a favor, like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. We really do appreciate the fans. We want to keep everybody engaged. We are almost to 100 subscribers. So once we get there, we will have our first giveaway. And just, as always, keep diving into that realm. See you
guys.
later.